Good morning, everybody. Text home here, Paul Wallington. It is the Tuesday morning show. Happy to see you guys. Elio, good morning. We are
Good
going to
morning.
talk about some players at the Senior
Yo.
Bowl. Yep. AR, good morning. We're going to talk about Senior Bowl, improving your draft stock. And then we're just going to chat with you guys, man. So engage in the comments, ask anything you want. We're kind of in that weird stall of off season where like no future plans are going forward to talk about. No past, all the past plans have been talked about. So we're kind of in that weird middle range. Roaster, what's up? Good morning, man. Good to see our core crew here as always.
Have people been talking much about some of the coaching hires and the moving deck chairs of the Big Ten?
No.
Kind of relevant for us, right? Jim Knowles leaving Ohio State.
Yeah, so we did a small, I'm sure Ian will also like to talk about this tomorrow. We did a small piece on Jim Knowles yesterday on the morning show, just because the OU content creators were catching hell. And we were talking about this is what it looks like to cover a bad team. Like you're getting intel that Knowles is coming clearly.
Yeah.
And he's not. Your coaches and sources are wrong.
Those OU guys got hung out to dry. That's not their fault.
Correct. And that's
you
know, yeah, the fans think that like they just completely made it up. And that's not the case. That's what's being a fan of a bad team feels like. You get the rugs pulled out from under you and it makes you look silly. But
a lot of false hope. Well, I mean, hey, that's our opener. It's going to be consequential. And I think there's some interesting levels to the story. So people are saying, oh, gosh, it's just about the money or, whatever. Man, I think we talked about this some leading up to our game with Ohio State, but there was some real dissension on that staff with Knowles and some of his assistants. And some of those assistants, so the power structure at Ohio State, there's kind of like almost a group of coaches who are lifers, who the coordinators have to almost sort of placate. It's kind of a weird dynamic, but
Larry, trying to pull up a tweet from Cody Alexander, who's a football influencer, and he talks about just that.
Yeah, and Johnson, the defensive line coach, really conflicted with Knowles about the structure of the defense and how it should be called. By the way, Knowles was right. And the Oregon game, the first one, was vindication, and that allowed Knowles to implement the defense he wanted to implement, which the Ohio State, some of his assistants didn't like, but doing it their way didn't work. Doing it Knowles' way won them the national title. And then I think Knowles in the process lost quite a bit of respect for Ryan Day, because Day never stepped in and told the assistants like, hey, shut up and soldier. This guy's your coordinator. This is what we're doing.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think it's interesting. And if it sets Ohio State back a little bit in their opener, all the better.
Yeah. And everything you said is accurate here. Let me pull this tweet up that I think was interesting. I saw it this morning. Okay, I think this is the tab. Okay. Let me pull this up here. Let's see if I can get it bigger. Okay. This is Cody Alexander. He's a big football influencer, former coach, writer of all the Match Quarters books, and the coaching community really respected here. So user JBook said, Josh Pate made a good point after Ryan Day got involved with the defense after Oregon Part 1. They were significantly better. However, getting involved may have hurt some egos, blah, 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 blah. Cody Alexander says, involved means letting Knowles finally run his defense and not cater to an assistant coach who still wants to play 4-2 cover 1 single gap defense, but can recruit really well.
That's Johnson.
Yeah. The ego part is Knowles wanting to be able to run his defense, which works without limitations.
Yeah, there's no ego involved with Knowles. It's I'm the coordinator and I'm competent. And by the way, when we did it my way, we won the national title. When we did it your way, Oregon threw the ball all up and down the field and ran on us too, by the way, doing it your way. And it's not an uncommon thing. And the weird thing about Ohio State is there's this weird structure of like lifer assistants who are like the deep state of Columbus. Like you can't eradicate them.
Yeah,
they just assume any coordinator or even any head coach is just
we'll have to adjust to them.
You just have to endure them for 4 years, right? And then you can go about running things as you think. And Johnson, I guess, in a way, won this, right? But if I'm the next defensive coordinator, my first meeting isn't with Ryan Day on day one with Johnson.
Yeah.
Like, hey man, you coach the D line. I'm gonna be coaching defense.
But that's also
haul ass.
That's also why I thought it was a weird fit with Oklahoma, right? Like clearly there was conversations there, but Venables is kind of known for not being able to fully take his hands off the defense. I mean, that's part of the reason that Zach Alley went to West Virginia. It's kind of be his own man, reportedly. So it's like that's why I would think it would be weird for Knowles, unless Venables was gonna say, "Hey, hands totally off." But if you wanted freedom to operate, OU didn't seem like the spot for that. What do you think?
Well, so I think the difference is competence. So Jim Knowles respects Brent Venables.
Right. He knows he can coach. Yeah.
He thinks Johnson is a fool that doesn't know what he's doing. And so that there's a big difference in collaboration with a buffoon and someone who's a sharp defensive mind. And Venables is pretty collaborative. He's not like, my way or the highway guy. I mean, he was bringing in Knowles to get some ideas and invigorate some stuff and probably offload some of the defense, in fairness. Yeah. The problem I think Venables has is it's his baby. So you may conceptualize, I need to offload the defense. But when it got into season, I wonder.
Right. Whenever the defense started to get carved up a little bit, that's when I heard
Tuesday, I wonder if he'd be like, Jim, I drew up some calls. Right. You want to take a look at these? Like,
yeah.
I think Sark, if he ever does offload play calling duties or some of the offensive coordinator responsibilities, I think he'll have a similar struggle.
Yeah. And Venables, like we said, I mean, he took in Iowa State's 3-high defense. He's an open mind and an incredible coordinator and designer of defense. But yeah, I just thought it was weird because, and I get there's a different caliber of collaborator, like you said, but I guess it's an interesting squad, like Kotelnicki and Knowles at Penn State. I like the coordinator matchups.
We got good coaches, man. And I mean, I understand Franklin. I understand all that and the big games and all that. But, if he lets them just coach,
right,
I could see it working. But they're still trying to make Drew Allar a thing, and I'm not sure that he's ever going to be a thing because every time they talk about his traits and all of his stuff, and then you watch him in a sort of a big game, you're like, all right, whatever you say.
Yeah. This last game, remember, I was talking to Ian about it. I didn't feel like this was a Coach Franklin let the team down game. I mean, like they were able to march and they threw a pick. I mean, that's just on the quarterback. That didn't feel like the typical Franklin sabotaged himself thing. It felt like they had a shot.
Yeah. So historically, Franklin sabotage is his background's on offense.
Yeah.
And he's not very good at it.
Yeah.
But he's a great program builder, recruiter, motivator, developer. And so as big games would come up, he'd get tight and then he'd have input on the game plan. Or during the game, 4th and 1 on the 50, he'd be like, we're punting this. And the coordinator would be like, hey, we talked all week about in this situation, I've got to play for this. It's going to work. And Franklin's like, no, too risky. We're punting. It's no good.
That's what we're talking about. It's hard to take it's easy to take your hands off when you're playing your FCS schedule, winning by 70. Yes. But when the moments matter, those coaches tend to latch back on.
It's Tom Cruise in Top Gun when he won't engage.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's no good.
Yeah. It's like, that's the hardest part. Reports say Knowles reached out to both Venables and Franklin about the openings. Penn State went over the top.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, Knowles I think there was just a staff conflict thing, but the secondary motivation is money. I mean, it's a profession. And Knowles is not a head coach. Like, he's not that guy. So if you want to maximize your earnings as a coordinator, someone offering an extra $1 million a year, it's real money, man.
Yeah, I think the conflict has to be the catalyst, but as soon as you have the catalyst, then it's about maximizing earnings.
Then it's maximizing your opportunity. State college ain't real expensive, from my understanding. You get a pretty nice house there for cheap. So I'm sure he's going to, sock.
Well, and Oklahoma made sense too because he was at Oklahoma State, so they knew the area, and I believe too his wife has some lasting connections there. So there was a good fit for the family in Oklahoma. So there were some things behind the scenes that also made sense, which is also probably why the OU guys felt a certain way. So there was more to just money and Jim Knowles. There was the family would have liked Oklahoma too, but hey, nothing wrong with Penn State either.
So AR saying in the chat, Venables and Knowles have definitely bumped heads. So in a constructive way. I think that's kind of what we're saying. They're both guys that are good at what they do and they respect each other. So it's very different. Like if you've been in the corporate world, it's very different to bump heads with someone you consider an equal who has a different opinion.
Right.
That's a different conversation than someone who's a buffoon and they're trying to go around you and they're slandering and like being drama queens and gossips and like that's first of all, that's terrible for a coaching staff, but that doesn't encourage collaboration when you know what you're doing and the guy arguing with you is a moron. This is that I've just described 80% of my career in the corporate world and why I started.
That's all corporate is. It's brutal, man.
It's tough.
Yeah, I had a fun.
Connor's had a few of those moments.
Yeah, I worked a few corporate jobs, man, and but yeah, that's also tough, man. That's you're in the room as Jim Knowles. Your position coach is the silent leader of the room.
Yeah,
everybody understands the dynamic.
Yeah,
and then that's just awkward, man. That's just tough to have to try to command that group of coaches when you have a shadow leader.
Well, do you remember when Putin, per the Russian Constitution, stepped down?
Right.
And it was it Medvedev?
Yeah, and he just installed the fake president for 4
years.
years.
You know who's running the country.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's why it's got to be super awkward and weird there. So it'll be interesting, man. I like the coordinator pairing of those two at Penn State. If Penn State can just put the money up and get some dudes too, they might be in good position, but that's where it turns out you're going to need wide receivers.
Turns out that's helpful.
Yeah.
If you can't complete a forward pass to your wide receivers in a playoff game, that is a problem.
They can just escape the Big Ten stereotype mindset of football, they'll be good. If like you can just not try to like do the cold weather thinking of football. You're going to be all right.
Historically, Penn State's had like fast receivers.
Yeah, that is true.
They've had those guys. They just don't have them right now.
Yeah. Paul, with the season being so long, how do you guys think Texas will handle spring ball, especially with players that have played 800 snaps?
This is a great question. And I think this is related to why you're seeing some people drop out of the Senior Bowl, right? To include some Texas guys. It's a long season. There's a lot of snaps. These are college guys. They're younger bodies. So I'm very interested to know how you manage this because you also still they've got to recuperate. They've got to heal, but now they got to start getting strong again, right? Because as the season progresses, you're not able to lift weights other than to like do maintenance, right? That's what you're hoping for at best. And this is going to that's a fantastic question. The answer is, you better use this spring as an opportunity to really learn about your young guys who didn't do the 800 snaps. I think they kind of know what they're getting out of Michael Taft, right? And I think they know what they're getting out of some of these guys that are proven vets. But boy, this is when Roberson, this is when guys like that in the defensive backfield, Kobe Black, they didn't play all those snaps. They need to step up and get all those reps in the spring and show what they can do. That would be my approach, but you still got to practice and you still got to have your players, do that. But I think I would try to reduce some of those snaps on some of those proven, worn out veterans.
Yeah, I agree. If you know what you have up front, it's all about depth. We need to know what's going. We also because you need to know who you need to fix in the portal, right?
Yeah.
Do I need a second string receiver or do I need a starter? Like that kind of stuff is where it's going to matter. It's all going to be mix and matching. You can tune everything up in fall camp, but this spring particularly, you're going to need to do a lot of work on like, what do we actually have here? Because there's a lot of questions going in. Question doesn't mean there's not an answer. It just means there's a lot of questions that we're going to have to kind of figure out in spring ball.
Like random guys that have kind of get forgotten, right? Everyone knows about the recruits and they know about the current starters.
Right, those 2 and 3 years.
It's the 2 and 3 year guys that were a lot of them redshirting. Yeah. Like what is Parker Livingstone? We don't know.
Yeah.
So the spring is the opportunity to find out. What we know is he's tall and fast and he's got good hands. So does that translate? Like, is he physical enough? Like, that's a guy that you want to evaluate because his progress will determine what you do in the portal at wide receiver. I still think we need to take one, but I need to take two. So
yeah, exactly. Your confidence is going to change based on how he performs. Tight end is going to be an important watch.
O-line, you got to see if those guys can come together. What's your best unit? Is it Cole Hudson at center? Is it,
Right.
like, you got to mix and match, and you kind of got to run it like full speed to really know what's going on.
Also, can you run block with them?
And can you run block? Yeah, exactly. I mean, theoretically, we could get a run blocking upgrade and a pass blocking downgrade with this new offensive line. So we'll see.
Yeah. And then, of course, the running backs are all hurt. So it's like trying to see what we have. Really, everything besides Arch is like, wonder what. And Arch is still a question also, So it's like pretty much everything on the offense is like, we'll see, man.
It's very interesting. And we may have to embrace our inner GM and realize this is kind of pro football on the running back room pretty soon, because guys that are really talented that we love and we care about, but they keep getting hurt and they're eating up NIL. That's a running back is a tough position to eat that and not. It is a zero-sum game at a certain level. So.
And it's also too, man, like it's so dependent on me on our run blocking, right? Like if you have a solid run blocking line, you don't need a high caliber back always. Like if you can block for 5, like that's good. But if we can't run block at all, you need a back that can do a backflip, spin, 360 arm, stiff arm. So it's like that also matters too, man. It's like, how is the offensive line going to look, and how does that affect the running back room?
I think Bijan and Jonathan Brooks and Roschon Johnson covered up some warts. That
my favorite thing ever is we would promote, not inside Texas, but like Texas would promote us leading the country with those backs and missed tackles forced. That's not a metric you want to lead in, because it means that your offensive line's not blocking well and your backs are having to do everything. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. We'll have to see, because run blocking is actually, I think maybe year 2 it was actually pretty good. But like we said, it was the backs doing their thing. All right, guys, before we keep going, let's hear from Laura Baker.
Hi, I want to tell you about Laura Baker. If you're looking for a new home in the 512, or even at this point, let's face it, 737 area code, there's only one number to call. That's Laura Baker at 512-784-0505. As a member of the elite Andy Allen team with Keller Williams, Laura has helped Longhorns find the home of their dreams in Central Texas. Just ask our resident sex symbol, Ian Boyd, who moved all the way from Michigan to Texas with Laura's help. Laura can help you find what you're looking for in the 512, the 737, or even parts of the 254 and the 210. Just, give her a call at 512-784-0505. Her email is in the description, as well as the rest of her contact details. She's a friend. Give her a call.
All right. Looking through our comments real quick. Anyone know if there's somewhere to watch Senior Bowl practices live?
I would love to see that. I don't know about that.
I don't know. I only ever see like the clips from the media guys there. I've never watched a live. That'd be cool. Who's still going for us? Because I know Makuba dropped out.
Makuba dropped out and Broughton dropped out.
Broughton dropped out too. Okay, so who do we have? We have Helm, Collins.
And Baron Terrell.
Okay. That'll be interesting. OU is not a good place. Coaches are looking to move to. Knowles wants longevity with a program on the up and up. Yeah, that's the risk too, right?
Well, yeah. I mean,
jump on a sinking ship.
Oh, you did extend Venables though.
Yeah,
they're not going to kick Venables to the curb. Like they're going to give him a little rope. We'll see, but
please,
yeah,
be our guest. Venables' defense gets torn up during the Red River. Wonder how that dialogue between BV and Knowles will go. Yeah, that's the problem. Coaches will sometimes try to snatch back hold of it.
Yeah, I mean, if last year's game, I guess I should say, was any indication, 34-3. I think you're going to save your choicest words for the offense, probably, if you're OU.
That would be funny. Becton and his staff monitor the players pretty closely. I'm sure his program plays a role in rest for the players. Yeah, if they have all those trackers on them, they know if they're overexerting themselves. It like computes to some type of like recovery score, and they even do that on basic like running watches. So they have the same tech where they can say that you overran that day and stuff like that. Hookem, any predictions on the DT from? I think you're talking about Hero.
Hero Canoe,
Yeah.
protagonist outrigger.
I know Eric did a post on the board about Hero. I think he announces his decision on Wednesday, and Wednesday is the last day you can join classes or when classes start or whatever for UT. So there's probably some connection there between him choosing Wednesday and it being an important day for classes at Texas. So hopefully, well, that lack of depth seems like a great fit for the next 2 years. Does Gilbo have the skill set to move outside a la Barron, or does nickel require too much processing for a younger guy like Roberson or Jordan Johnson-Rubel?
Jordan Johnson-Rubel would not be a nickel candidate. Roberson, maybe. Although I think Roberson might project more to a corner. Gilbo, I've got questions about his pure speed at corner. Because we cover our nickel, or at least we covered our nickel pretty well last year. In fact, I just wrote an article about this on Inside Texas, so I'm glad you queued me up. If you track his targets by the numbers, Gilbo was thrown at 64 times last year, 47 completions. That's over 73%. That's pretty high. However, 418 yards. So less than 10 yards per completion, 6.45 yards per attempt. So that's okay at the nickel. A lot of that is because Gilbo keeps stuff in front of him. And part of that is because he has Andrew Makuba standing behind him. So people didn't get over top on our nickel all year. Like that just didn't happen. So I've seen Gilbo for 3 years now. And other than the moderate improvements you'd expect of just aging, he looks like the same guy to me. So does he have the pure foot speed to play out at corner? You know, I was a guy that thought Jahdae Barron could play corner, and I know a lot of people thought he could not. I actually have reservations about Gilbo out there. I'm not sure. I'm not sure he can turn and run with people the way we want.
Yeah.
What do you think, Connor?
I would have to evaluate his foot speed like that. I really haven't thought about it that much. I do have questions sometimes with just the raw processing that requires to being in the box. So it's like for young guys, like you said, like that's a tough spot, man. The nickel to me is like a tight end of the offense. Like you're living in two different worlds. You're living as a box player, and you're also living in the safety world and the coverage world. So I think you need to know a lot for that position.
Well, to your point, Connor, that's a great comp. Gilbo is good against the run.
Yeah.
I mean, he's physical. He's not like a huge guy, but he'll put his nose in there.
He'll fire.
I think the concern I have with him is he makes very few plays on the ball.
Yeah.
Even from nickel, where he's getting some targets, he had like 2 PBUs, no interceptions. He's not a guy that's gotten a lot of interceptions.
I just worry about moving him out and putting a younger guy there just because just like the being closer to the box, how much faster things occur, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, that's what I want for a young guy. I mean, there's a lot of thinking, like you can key run, come downhill and then it's play action, you know, like there's a lot going on there. And
depending on safety, you know, Jelani McDonald can play nickel.
Yeah, but I don't want him to. I want Jelani McDonald coming downhill at guys.
I hear you, but what if Derek Williams gets a full recovery?
Yeah. Yeah, because you need Jelani on the field, man. Like, yeah.
Jelani McDonald is not sitting on the bench if I'm a coach in Texas. I'm sorry. Yeah. He's out in the field. We got to find a way to play that guy.
Yeah. Here's Joe. Casual football fan, Joe Cook.
That's right.
Teams had to throw somewhere against Texas. Right.
Yeah. You know what they threw? Powerful Joe Cook. Thank you for the powerful comment. They threw at the nickel. They threw at Manny Muhammad, and they threw at our linebackers.
Yeah. Yeah, Manny, definitely late in the season, it seemed like they figured something out there because they didn't feel like either corner got tested for like the first 11 weeks.
Basically, the minute Manny tweeted his dissatisfaction with his NIL, those 4 games tanked. He was having a good season, and he really fell off at the end. I mean, pretty bad.
Yeah, it wasn't a great way to assert your leverage in any negotiations, right?
I think he needs to clear his head, have a great offseason, get some people out of his ear who didn't have his best interest at heart, and have a great year and go make some NFL money, because that's where the real money is.
Yeah. It's
by the way,
also,
paying him is good. So
it also felt too like as soon as Jade got the Thorpe, like they just like we're not the magic Thorpe force field has been put entirely on Barron, and they didn't throw it on much, but like it seemed like that's when they decided also that we're going for this corner too. Like it was pretty interesting.
Well, we started lulling. I mean, we started daring people to throw at Barron because we were putting him out there by himself and just rolling coverage.
Yep.
And people were still like, nah, we're good.
Because it's a trap. and Barron will trap you. Like, remember that? What was that play earlier in the year where he came off his guy and got the pick like by the safety? He'll also give fake cushion.
Yeah.
So he's like baiting. That's when you know you're getting to a high level of DB play.
Just baiting.
Yeah. When you're just baiting. Whenever you're acting like your guy's not covered, trying to entice the quarterback to throw it.
Yeah.
So you know he can get it. Wardell Mack might be a good fit at nickel. Was it Wardell that got that pick in the end zone?
My memories of Wardell Mack are the spring game. Just poor
he
guy.
got a pick in the end zone like earlier in the season. One of the fans will know.
I don't remember.
I can't remember if it was Mack though. Yeah, it was Mack.
Season's a blur.
Yeah. Yeah. So you end up with
16 game season is a blur.
It is a blur, man. I can't remember. I remember events. I don't remember teams that the event occurred against.
Yeah, it's true.
So if you get Williams back, Taff, Kobe Black, Malik, Gilbo, and then you have to figure out how to get Jelani McDonald on the field. Because he just looks like an NFL player amongst NFL players.
I mean, I don't think that's the debate. I think Jelani McDonald's on the field. I think the debate's about some other guys.
Yeah.
I just think it's a question of where. Is he a safety or a nickel?
Yeah.
And I love that he can play both because it gives you the ability to play the best at the other position. And you know what? I wouldn't put it past there still could be we still might grab a guy in the portal.
At safety?
Just defensive back.
Just overall DB?
Yeah. I mean, you get eyes on guys in the spring and you see who's progressed and who hasn't. And, a guy we think that might be a potential nickel candidate that's intriguing is actually a guy we want to process out. So we'll see.
And there's going to be a lot of fun speculation this year, dude. Because it seems like there's so many positions. Like edge and linebacker are the only ones that you can't argue about. Like team.
Well, edge you can argue about because you're like not sure who to start and who to put in the rotation, right? Yeah. There's so many.
Such a difference from a couple years ago, man.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So like our fourth edge this year would have been our star edge when Sark first arrived.
Yeah, 100%.
Like Vosick would have been like a superstar
on
the 2021 defense. And now he's like our fourth, he's our fourth edge, right?
Yeah.
Probably our fourth, right?
Yeah.
Maybe third. We'll see.
Yeah, he's getting I guess that shoulder scoped out too. So we have to see when he's gonna be back. All right. Everyone on the OSU boards are saying just the opposite of you guys. They are saying Knowles was the problem, wanting to run a 3-3-5.
Yeah, that's not accurate. And you know how I know it's not accurate? Because I actually understand the defense that Jim Knowles wants to run, and that's the defense they ran against us. And that's the defense they ran in the playoffs. So the change was that first Oregon game. And Jim Knowles was the guy who ran that show. That is his defense. So sorry, though, Ohio State boards aren't more educated.
Yeah, I feel bad for you guys.
Yeah. Sorry, you guys don't have any guys.
You dummies.
Hey, look, honestly, it's a fan base that's defensive. And they just won the national title, which is awesome. So they don't care. But also, they don't want to hear that they've got
internal issues,
these weird dynamics going on. And, it also suggests, frankly, that Ryan Day is kind of weak, right? By the way, this has happened at Texas. Y'all know that, right?
No, it hasn't, Paul.
Yes.
It hasn't. Texas is perfect. And also all the players are here because they love Texas as well.
That's right. But no, I mean, pre-Sark, pre-Herman, we had staffers that were circumventing the coordinator and going to the head coach. And the head coach was not strong enough to squash it out. And it created a lot of problems. Big part of the ending of the Mac Brown era was exactly that kind of stuff. So it happens.
You saw Mac at the Texas A&M game, huh?
Yeah, boy, I hope we bring him back. I hope he's our AD. I hope he just is a big part of the program. Don't you think, Connor?
Dude, does Mac plays the best sweet grandpa PR? Like
That's giving you.
Yeah, like Mac is like really good at like, and I'm not saying Mac is like some
give grandpa a hug. What's that in my ribs?
Yeah, I'm not saying he's some Machiavellian figure, but I'm also saying
Machiavellian.
Yeah, that he's I'm not saying like he's evil, but he's also just not sweet grandpa. He knows how to move.
He knows how to move. He knows the politics of football.
Yeah, he knows the game of it all. So it is just funny, like the discrepancy from hey y'all versus
we do owe the guy a lot.
Yeah,
but everything someone says after the word "but" is actually what they think, right?
Yeah,
yeah. But he needs to stay far away from the actual workings of the program in any role. I don't even want him fundraising. Like, just like, you're welcome. Let's give you applause when you go to a basketball game. All that. That's great. You know, one day, is he in the Hall of Honor or whatever?
I have no idea.
I mean, whatever.
I don't keep up with my Hall of Honors.
All right. Well, he'll get his flowers and like everyone should applaud. But dude, don't get into like giving him a role. Don't just like keep him out of all that. Just let him be ceremonial.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's no way. I mean, when you're such a high power individual, there's no way that you don't end up. Also, if you give him some symbolic role, he can also find a way to maximize that. You know, so it's just like it's interesting. Paul, who's the greatest mortgage man in the land?
Gabe Winslow. Did you see how I didn't even have to think about that, Connor?
Yeah, because there's no question.
Because it's true. Mortgages by Gabe Winslow. You can reach him at 832-557-1095. And you know what? You guys a little bored? It's winter. Football season's over. Go buy a house. Better yet, refi your house. Take that money and give it to our super chats so Connor can eat. All right. Why Gabe? Hey, over 20 years in the industry. Fantastic at what he does. Former National Merit Scholar. He's got a law degree from a top 25 law school. This dude shouldn't be doing mortgages. This guy should be solving world hunger. But he can solve your mortgage problems and your hunger for a new home. Call Gabe, 832-557-1095.
Shout out, Gabe. Okay. All right. How do we improve our draft stock at the Senior Bowl by our three guys that actually are going?
Well, thank you for asking. I have opinions on this, and I wrote some of them.
What are the odds? I just thought of that. I'm glad you luckily had opinions on that.
So let's start. Who do you want to start with? Collins, Sorrell, or Helm?
Let's start with Sorrell.
Okay. Here's the interesting value proposition and the down. This will be the praise of Sorrell and all the scouting offices, and this will be the critique of Sorrell and all the scouting offices. How do you evaluate a guy who has no weaknesses but has no superpower?
Mm-hmm.
He's a 7.5 out of 10 in like every trait that you want in an edge. Now, I would say like physicality and toughness are very high.
10 on mental eval.
And mental, very high.
Yeah.
But is he super explosive, like first step? No. But he's a pretty good athlete, and he's good in pursuit. Hey, who led the Texas Longhorns in pressures this year?
I don't know, but is it Sorrell? That's interesting.
Aaron Sorrell.
That's
not
cool.
Colin Simmons, not Anthony Hill, not Trey Moore. So the guy got after the quarterback, and he did get some sacks, and he did affect games. I mean, he was a guy, I mean, against Arizona State, oh my God, the guy must have run 7 miles chasing Sam Levin. So he's just a good player. And what's amazing about him is he never took a leap at Texas. He just got better every year.
Yeah, it was just steady. Yeah.
And so I think that's going to be an interesting, I think personally, the Baltimores, the Pittsburghs are going to love this guy from a toughness and mental eval perspective, physicality. I think he can increase his draft stock if he can show that he can play true 3-4 outside linebacker. And I mean the other linebacker, not the TJ Watt position, the other guy who does the dirty work. He sets the edge. He covers the tight end, stops the run. He does, but he's good enough as a rusher that when you do bring him, you can get 5 or 6 sacks out of him, right, on the season.
Yeah.
I think if he can do that, because I know he can play 4-3 defensive end or traditional edge in the NFL. If he can play 3-4 outside linebacker, and he may need to lose 5-10 pounds or something, it's all doable. I think that will increase his draft stock. What do you think? What does Chat think?
Yeah. I mean, I think his value is at a strong side, edgy type of thing to be able to stop the run, take on tight ends, take on double teams. Anchor will be valuable. But that's the thing is you kind of feel like that's what Barron is. And then you hear the pressures and then you watch the game, because in your mind, you're kind of like, Barron's not necessarily like a pure pass rusher, that's not how I think of him in a Colin Simmons type world as a pure pass rusher. I thought he did good dirty work because of his mental eval, because of his intensity and willing to scrap. But then you see he also has these pass rush abilities. And it's not all concrete sacks, but pressures are going to make a difference. I know he's going to come to work every day. All the intangibles are there. He was a 3-star out of Louisiana and he's not super traitsy, right? You're not seeing the longest arms in the world or that kind of stuff. But you're hearing from behind the scenes, he's one of the stronger guys. It was Barron that made the freaks list too, didn't he? In the preseason,
Feldman's freak list,
yeah, which was weird, right? Because we were I don't know how he's going to test, but he's going to be one of those. I think the corny thing is I think you're getting a football player,
yeah.
And like you said, to a Baltimore, to a Steelers organization like that, you're going to get a solid guy that's going to show up on time, not cause issues, get better every year, and maybe in 3 years, one of the better players, that it's just going to do their job and be assignment sound. Because I didn't feel like we ever had to question if Barron was going to do his job or bust.
No one ever is concerned about Sorrell showing up for a game.
Exactly.
Right. I mean, that's not even a thought. Right.
Yeah.
So he's not Bond.
Right.
Is he going to play? Is he going to try today?
Right.
That's not even a thought process for that guy. So yeah, I think he's probably a 4th round guy.
Okay.
But the Senior Bowl, the whole purpose of the Senior Bowl is you can raise your draft choice. You could raise your draft pick by 50 slots out there.
Yeah, it's a marketing exercise.
It's all good on good. And you know what? Half the scouts and coaches go home and they don't even watch the game. They just watch the practices.
Yeah.
So
because they don't really care. They're looking at what you can do.
Game's the exhibition. The practices are what they're trying to do.
They want to see your movement and your size. What was the
Helm or Collins?
Let's do Collins and we'll work our way up to Helm.
All right. Sounds good.
What does Collins need to show? If I'm Collins, I'm not even participating. I'm just showing them the interception from the Colorado game of year 1. I'm just showing them that on repeat of him diving backwards. He kind of had his crowning moment right up front. His quote-unquote Heisman moment.
I'll tell you what he did. He was one of the best run-defending defensive tackles in college football.
Which is not what he was. He was all about pass rush, so that shows the amount of work he put in.
He is a 6'5", 320-pound guy with long arms and good athleticism. Mm-hmm. And he's a weird guy in the sense that he got really good at stopping the run. I mean, he had multiple big stops for us on 3rd and 4th down when he's getting double teamed and he wins, right? He also had this sort of value add about him from just athleticism. Mm-hmm. So he forced a fumble against OU. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
He's pursuing the OU back. He's not even close to where the ball's going. And he reaches out, and it wasn't a lucky deal. He reached in there and poked out the ball deliberately. Most defensive tackles in college and the NFL can't do that.
And they don't have the awareness to do that.
They don't have the awareness or the coordination or any of that. So he's this run stopper with these weird value adds. How many times did he alter or bat a ball that was an interception?
Right.
I mean, multiple times. So that is something that'll be very interesting, where I think some NFL front offices will be like, hey, this is a rock inside who actually isn't that great a pass rusher anymore. He's good.
Which is so weird because last year he's a top 10 pass rusher in college football from PFF.
I think that was where he was lining up partly.
And also probably not being a starter, right? Get to come in and really execute.
It's like the NBA, the guy who gets 12 minutes a game and he averages like 7 rebounds. Everyone's like, if he played 30 minutes, he'd average 28 rebounds.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't scale perfectly. But it is interesting that that's there, right? And as a potential role player.
So I think there's a potential for Alfred Collins to if he blows it up in Mobile, he could be drafted at the end of the first round.
Well, here's the thing. Exactly where I was going to go with it. Dude, like the first year he was playing for us, all the whispers was this guy has first round ability and traits.
Yeah.
And he does as far as like testing goes. And so it's just that's what's going to be interesting with Collins. He has potential to really fly up the boards because he has all the NFL tangible stuff. And then he seemed to have matured. And like I said, the question was kind of, Collins is like just kind of this pretty pass rusher last year. It's like, can he actually do the dirty work? And was he willing to mix it up? And this year he proved it. He was able to get in the run game. He was shedding guys at the goal line and taking hits. So his development was awesome. I think he has all the traits you want. I think he's proven that he can do it in the pass rush, maybe with limited minutes where he can really pin his ears and situationally on thirds, right? But also the fact now that he's able to stand up in the run game as a big body with the aggressiveness. And what did you think about his overall effort? Because the problem with Collins too was just like he would take plays off.
His effort was great. Yeah.
So did I.
His effort's been great for 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's not been an issue. And then final point, positional flexibility. Everyone in the NFL is looking for Chris Jones.
Right.
And what I mean by that is the Kansas City defensive tackle, who Kansas City played in a package against Houston, not like defensive end, like real defensive end, like coming off the edge.
And Collins played year one, was doing defensive end stuff too.
Collins can do some of that. He's actually better lined up straight up on the tackle, like doing the 4-eye stuff. And so that gives him positional flexibility that's very appealing to multiple front teams, but also 3-4 teams.
But if you wanted to get real big, you could put him at 5, a 5 technique, put him on the outside to Q. You could put him at 4-eye, like you said, inside the tackle, and also the traditional and play him in a 3 to penetrate.
So that's super valuable in the NFL, not only for the individual team, because a lot of teams run multiple fronts. No one's like a true blah, blah, blah team anymore, right? But also it makes you draftable by 32 teams.
Right.
So that's really helpful to getting drafted higher, because now 32 people have you on their board. Whereas Baron Sorrell, if he can't show some 3-4 outside linebacker type stuff, because they're going to have him dropping in the Senior Bowl and like evaluating him. If he can't show that, it limits his menu of options. And so that, making yourself broadly appealing is a great way to move yourself up the draft boards.
Yeah. Yeah. Collins could be a big mover. I totally agree. And I'm really happy with our guys being able to maximize, man, at defensive tackle. Because every year, since Ojomo's year, we're like, I don't know if this next group of guys can do it. And then they do it, and then they do it. So that's been really cool to see. All right. Gunnar Helm, man, somebody that improved his draft stock throughout the year tremendously.
Oh my God.
And two, man, like I've been standing on the table for Helm since we got him as a pass receiving threat. If you watched him in Colorado at Cherry Creek, he was going up and mossing dudes. Like he's a downfield threat, and we never got to see that until this year. So to be able to show the full menu of what he can do. Now, he's not a great blocker. He's definitely going to be more of a receiving threat. He's not a bad blocker, but it's not like your traditional tight end, right? He's 6'7".
Yeah, so just to fill people in.
Yeah.
You're exactly right about his high school tape. He's all flexed out, just playing receiver, basically.
Yeah.
And mossing people. Cherry Creek is like the Westlake of Colorado.
Yeah, it's a great program.
So it's a great program. They have all this crazy youth development stuff. My son played 5th grade football, and Cherry Creek, the area, fielded like 6 different Pee-wee football teams in his league.
Mm-hmm.
And they have like the A team, B team, C team, D team. They all run the same offense the high school runs. and they start him in like 4th grade.
That's how it was in Denton. We were running our base run plays in Pee Wee.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So
But yeah.
that's the program. So like envision that. It's that version in Colorado. And then he came to Texas and it just needed his time. And he also had to develop. I mean, he got faster, he got stronger, everything, he came around as a player. I didn't expect this kind of breakout. Like he was unbelievable for us. And I mean, he would not have, no one had him on a draft boards before the year. Let's just say that. And now he is. Yeah,
in my heart.
Except for Connor.
Yeah, except for me.
That's right. But so I'm going to take a contrarian view. So I think the conventional scouting perspective on Helm is good receiving tight end at Texas, has to show more as a blocker.
That's my position.
I think that's wrong. I think he has to go out to the Senior Bowl and humiliate a bunch of dudes receiving the ball, catching the ball. It's already baked in the cake what he is as a blocker. He's a screener.
But you don't think he's a great blocker?
No.
Okay. You're just thinking that's not what you need to focus on to improve.
That's what I'm saying is he needs to double down on his strengths, and actually that's how he will improve his draft stock.
Okay.
If he's lined up out there on I don't know who's the best safety out there. Caleb Downs isn't there.
Yeah.
But if he schools that guy, that will raise his draft stock more than if he's incrementally better as a blocker than they expected.
Right.
Because other than George Kittle, who is the exception, most tight ends in the NFL ain't about that blocking life anymore.
Yeah, it's a different league.
Just not.
Yeah.
And you can watch it every week. They're out there screening, basically. And, your goal is not to get ragdolled.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are split out. They're not even lined up with their hand down. So I think that's where Gunnar is going to prove himself. I'd be curious to know if the chat agrees or if they think he needs to repurpose himself as a 270-pound mauler to make the NFL.
Yeah. So he has the size at 6'7", solid hands.
Who's 6'7"?
Hell.
No, he's like 6'4.5".
Is he really?
Yeah.
I feel like he's 6. He in my heart, he's 6'7".
Oh, in your heart, he's 6'10".
Yeah, that's true. The idea of him is really powerful.
Yeah.
So where am I getting 6'7" from? Completely made it up, or maybe I got
it from one of our backup tight ends, Spencer
Shannon or something.
That's Shannon.
But so yeah, okay. So he has the size, he has the hands, and the mental evals there from when we interviewed him a couple months ago. He's a smart kid.
Also pointed dudes, which is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Draw the dumbest fouls. It was like, dude, come on, man. He wouldn't have done that if it wasn't Caleb Downs, by the way, too. That's like good. That's good players being like, hey,
but I was reviewing some of his film when I was writing my eval. He pointed at people all year.
Did he?
Yeah. This is the first time he got penalized.
It's
when he hurdled the dude against A&M, he turned around and pointed.
Oh yeah, I forgot, dude, his hurdling tendencies.
Yeah, he likes to hurdle.
So he's shown athleticism there. And like I said, he's going to crush the meeting room. He's going to understand the schemes. He's going to
super smart.
So he's going to have all of that. I agree. Yeah, with the thought process of you need to double down on your strengths. Because if you go from a C blocker to a B- blocker, they're going to be like, great, that'll move you up 10 spots maybe. But if you want to like really take a leap,
if he can't get open against NFL guys, that's the key. They're not looking for Gunnar Helm. Like, let's get him in here and really run some zone insert.
Right.
They're like, hey, man, let's draft Gunnar Helm late and get our Zach Ertz.
Yeah.
Like that's the goal. It's receiving ability. So anyway, those are my thoughts on the Senior Bowl, how they can raise their status. I think we got some super chats that we want to address from our excellent chat.
And then I want to actually talk about Makuba as well, what we would think theoretically. He's not going to be able to do it, but man, I love Makuba as a player. The amount of snaps Arch has taken, has he shown you the ability to adjust the offensive line, call audibles at the line of scrimmage?
So I don't recall him. I mean, and honestly, I wouldn't send a young quarterback in there with a bunch of audibles and like check with me's and stuff. I think they just sent him in there to run the offense. He might have checked out of a play. I don't know. But he'll have the full ability, the full arsenal next year. He knows the system. He's been here 2 years. He knows what's going on. He's a smart guy. He obviously knows football. And when in doubt, he will check to a deep post, AR. That is my prediction.
Yeah, it is interesting to see how field general he can be in college, right? Because of the Manning name, everybody's used to.
I think he's going to have a lot of latitude, and I think Sark's going to let him do some stuff.
I'll watch Nash's every play again on Arch and watch for what he's doing at the line because I didn't look specifically to see.
Listen for Omaha.
Yeah, exactly. Football Junkie, way too early top 5 Longhorns for the 2026 draft. Could someone rise like him?
Could someone rise like him? Yeah. In fact, we should probably bet on it because that's been
happened every year. Yeah, it's happened every year.
And I haven't
2026. Arch is not going to go out. Arch is most likely going to stay for 2 years, or else I'd probably say Arch.
Colin Simmons has to come back. Anthony Hill is in your top 5.
Yeah.
Um,
Colin Simmons would be able to go, wouldn't he? Was this his first year? He's that good.
2026 draft is like after this season.
Yeah, you're right. I'm thinking Colin Simmons has been here for 2 years. I don't know.
No, he just feels that way.
Colin, I have to say. So Anthony Hill,
Gooseby might be eligible. That would be inadvisable, but
thinking of all the people that can even get drafted. DJ Campbell
Arch would be eligible, but I don't think he's going to go.
That's what I was saying. Arch at wide receiver.
You could see DeAndre Moore potentially if he had a breakout. Got a lot of unknowns. I think this question sort of reveals that, right?
Yeah. Michael Taff is going to go.
Taff will go.
Is Jelani eligible? Is this Jelani?
Yeah, he would be.
Jelani's eligible.
I'd hate to see him go, but he could.
Manny Muhammad.
I mean, Derek Williams would technically be eligible. I don't see that.
Yeah.
That's it.
We don't have a lot of sure thing early rounders this next year, which is interesting.
Honestly, we don't even know our starters, man. The portal's gonna be interesting.
Yeah. But I haven't done this exercise, and it's a little worrisome now because a year ago I would have been like Kelvin Banks. I knew everybody who was going to go.
Well, the O-line will be interesting because you'll have a chance for some one-year starters effectively. So TJ Campbell, if he has the kind of year he expects. Cole Hudson could play himself in the NFL draft. NATO could do it. He could be a one-year star and go to the draft. It happens.
Mm-hmm. Cam Williams.
Yeah.
Could someone rise? Like, who do you think is most likely to rise?
Yeah, it's a great question. You don't get a lot of these guys that stick around, right?
I also feel like a riser would be somebody who's like not in our list of starters right now. That's going to be like super traitsy.
Yeah.
Like who's going to test really well right now that's not like it's like in the second group.
Yeah, that's a wild thought. Who could? I mean, NATO would be unexpected, right? What if he just comes in and he's freaking first team All SEC, mauls people? Like that stuff like that would be interesting.
Oh, a riser like a Vosic, right? Like someone that incredibly has all the NFL traits, like already. That's something I could see.
Vosic, I could see that for sure. Yep.
Alex January. I need to see more Alex. Yeah, it's weird because Paul made the point earlier. We're talking about middle ground players. We're not talking about the recruits or the guys now. So it's like that's where it gets murky, right?
Yeah, we just don't know. We haven't seen them play.
Yeah, but I agree. Gooseby, right? I
mean, every time I know Roberson's talented. Every time I see him, he's drawing a penalty. So
yeah, Trey Moore's a little trick. I don't know about a riser.
Yeah,
Trey doesn't have a lot of the raw traits. There's a reason Trey didn't go out this year. He doesn't have like the pure edge traits, so that's why people have talked about
that's getting drafted.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But I also you hear people want to put him at linebacker, right? And that's because he doesn't have the traditional length of his position.
Leona Lafau would be good.
Leonga would be cool. Yeah.
We need that.
And the coaches always say he's like an incredible pass coverage linebacker. Like that's what they like about him. So that's interesting. I want to see more of that. But yeah, this is a good exercise. I honestly might think about this more and look at the roster and stuff like that because it's a good way to start thinking about next season.
Might have given me an article idea.
I was gonna say, yeah, there you can go. All right, pulling a little bit more. Yeah, Muhammad. Yeah, it's gonna be a big year for Malik.
He has a big opportunity. And, speaking about Jalen Gilbo not making plays on balls, Manny didn't make any plays on the ball, really. He had some pass breakups, but 0 interceptions in 500 coverage snaps.
And remember, like his incredible interception versus Tech the previous year.
Yes.
So you want to see a little bit more of that. Because I think he's strong. What do you think? I think he's strongest in man. To me, he was getting picked on in mostly zone. And it would be like he would be dropping back as like a cover 3, and then they would high-low him, something behind him, something in front of him, kind of wrong no matter what. And then they would get the completion. He'd immediately throw his hands up, and get mad at the rest of the secondary. But that's like, to me, that's like the frustration of zone to a corner that prefers a man style.
Yeah, I would say one thing I did notice about him is his form would fall apart. Like his feet would be really stupid.
Never heard stupid feet.
I mean, just like the receivers releasing on him, and he's like taking weird false steps, and he'd be backing up, and the receiver, like you could see the throw and the receiver happening. It's telegraphed. He's in zone, and he still takes 3 extra steps backwards instead of planting and like driving on the ball. So he mentally fell apart those last 4 games. So he needs to get his mind right, get his body right, and go freaking ball out and be an NFL player, because he was pretty weak-minded, frankly, down the stretch. He needs to get some different people in his ear.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a stark contrast when you got someone like Jahdae Barron, right?
Yeah, that's a tough guy to have line up across from you.
Barron's going to be like one of my all-time favorite Longhorns. I mean,
yeah,
he just talk about doing like everything right. Hill is gone, absolutely. What do you think they do with Hill, right? Because he's like incredible athlete. He's going to have all the name recognition in the world, so they're going to know to look at him. Incredible pass rush ability, right? But like as far as like a pure linebacker, like where does he project to the NFL as like a pure off-ball linebacker? How much does he need to show there? Because I mean everything's there in the athleticism. Like he's going to test perfectly. So it's like that's the tricky part is like how does he actually fit? Or is he like
almost view him as like a Micah Parsons type guy?
I was going to say, or is he a role player that you're kind of putting on the line and stressing quarterbacks out with?
But Parsons is a little bigger, right?
I have no idea.
I feel like he is.
I think he's like 6'7".
Okay.
Everyone's 6'7" to me.
You want Connor filling out your high school?
Yeah, exactly. You want me to make your rosters?
I know. I'm like my rosters. I was like 6'3", 230, 40.
Yep.
Yeah, I was like 6'3", huh? All right.
Yeah, sounds good.
Cool. I thought I was 6'1".
Yeah, that's what's going to be interesting with Hill. Pure linebackery.
Yeah.
Is he going to be able to do that?
Also, he could get better at it.
Well, yeah, he will. But I just like that's what I want to see is like really good at identifying the gaps, understanding in coverage, not just dropping to drop, but understanding the concepts and working into windows with quarterback's eyes, not just doing the job, but understanding why you're being sent to do that job. That kind of stuff is going to be interesting because he's such a special athlete. Who do you think is going to be the best player on the team next year?
Arch Manning.
I think Colin Simmons.
It's tough.
Yeah, if we argue impactful, it's going to be a quarterback's always going to win.
I guess I'm kind of doing the quarterback's the most important position on the field.
Yeah.
Best player at their position could be Colin Simmons. Yeah.
He doesn't even make sense, dude. Like his get off doesn't make sense.
He's
like
crazy.
They're gonna have to start falsifying snap counts and stuff like that. They're gonna have to do weird stuff with him because, like, dude, like, and like you said, Nash will show it. Like the center moves like the frame of the ball, because at first I'm like, he's jumping the snap. He knows the count, but it's like it's also not just purely knowing the count. Like it's incredible how fast he can get off the ball.
He has not had a full year of college strength and conditioning.
Or a full year of actual starting and not just like constantly having to rotate in,
Well, by the end, he was basically a starter.
Yeah, but I'm talking about a year like.
True.
Yeah, here we go.
What's going to happen when he shows up in the fall and he's 250?
Yeah. Dude.
Like, he's going to be Abdul Carter for Penn State, right?
Yeah.
Like,
well, dude, like we said, incredible max effort player too. Not just like a
Right,
typical. Yeah, he's not there to just do half the job and pass rush and get sacks. Like, he's active in the run game. He'll chase guys down 20 yards down the field, and he's done that since high school. That's all in the tape.
well, and Connor, people are like, "Oh yeah, well, everyone's supposed to play hard. They're college football players for Texas." It's like, hey man, when I broke down Clemson and I was doing the scouting report on them on
Right.
Inside Texas, I don't remember how many times I mentioned, I was like, they don't play very hard.
Right.
Like, their defense doesn't play real hard. And then we played them, and you know what? I could find plays where their defense didn't play real hard. And guess what? Their defensive coordinator just got fired.
Right.
So
yeah, it's loafing.
apparently Dabo Sweeney agreed with me. And so people think it's a given, like, well, Colin Simmons supposed to play hard. He's getting paid. It's like, dude, like, don't take it for granted that elite players play their hardest on every snap. Colin Simmons, like, plays like he's a walk-on dork.
Exactly. Yeah.
Who's worried about, like, getting on the kick return team.
Yeah.
I love dudes like that. Like, that's such a great thing for like a 5-star to just have that mentality.
It's awesome. It's rare. It's rare too, man. To have that kind of edge to you, as no pun intended, have that edge to you on the edge.
So I guess my point is, people are right to fret about what you lose, because we are losing some special guys.
Yeah.
There's going to be guys like Colin Simmons, Jelani McDonald, Trey Moore, Vosick, Anthony Hill,
Arch Manning.
They're all going to be out there running around. Like,
well, and also too, man, it's like, it's kind of the mindset of like, guys, we've been recruiting like elite classes too.
Yes.
It used to be like, if this was like, because it feels like every year we're like, man, this was the top of the roster cycle. Like, it's the Herman era. Like, we had to build towards it. But the reality is we have so much more talent refilling that it's a different game. And we've seen different people step up every year. Because we're actually
some of it as a Texas fan is you saw a decade where your recruiting class rankings didn't matter because they didn't marry to the field.
Yeah.
But we're developing.
Right.
That's why I was saying, and I wrote my preview, my football book, the 12th annual, Thinking Texas Football. Buy it now. It's super relevant. I was writing like, hey, we're going to find out, is this a reload or a rehaul? Yeah. Because are we in like a Big 12 development cycle, or are we an SEC super program? Because we just lost all these dudes, Jatavian Sanders, Worthy, Mitchell, blah, blah, blah. You guys know Murphy, all these guys, right? Are we going to reload? Yeah, we did. And so we're past the whole like development cycle thing. Now, you'll have ebbs and flows. I mean, that's just
it'll change. It'll be the difference between like one game lost or something like that, but not total cliffs.
Well, and like our disastrous NFL draft years with Sark will now be like, oh, we only had 6 guys drafted.
Yeah.
That used to be the highlight.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I think we've gone to the next level. And now the question is just finding our ceiling and hanging around and stumbling into a national title or two.
And recruiting only gets easier once you've proven that you can get guys to the NFL, and we've done that. Because now it's like we had
total. You mentioned Makuba,
right?
Makuba was not a star at Clemson. He started. He's experienced.
Yeah.
He had 1 interception in 3 years starting there.
Yeah.
He's being misused. He wasn't coached well. I mean, he'll tell you, I was not being coached well.
Right.
He came to Texas in 1 year. He's a star. Casual college football fans now know who Andrew Makuba is.
Yeah. Well, it's also shout out to our scouting team to be like, hey, this guy's got what we need. If we can get him in the right position, he can be special. Because Makuba's this rare mix of like down to hit. You feel like he's targeting guys and he's not, just because that's how rarely you see safeties hit nowadays. And then on top of that, super smart, man. Like, totally understood concepts. Like, crap, he knew where to go, man.
5 interceptions.
One of my favorite.
I mean, yeah, he was born to be a deep safety.
Yeah.
And no one would play him there. And Texas is like, we got you. And now he's going to make a bunch of NFL money. So that's a great story to tell portal guys.
Yeah. What do you think? What are the final kind of finishing touches if he was at the Senior Bowl that you'd want to see from Makuba?
I think the concern with him will be size and durability.
Okay.
Because he's I don't know what he's listed at. I mean, 6 feet, 190 is his listing. I think by the end of the year, he's one of these guys that weighs like 180. Like he can't keep weight on. So I think he skipped the Senior Bowl to go lift. And I think he's going to show up at the combine in like the high 190s and like address some of that because he's just not a big guy. He's built lean, but man, he plays big.
There's also ways to get bigger. The NFL players have unique training regimens.
There are unique regimens that will get you bigger and stronger. I've heard
and certainly that doesn't occur in the NFL, but I've heard maybe there's ways to get bigger.
The issue is that durability. And then he does marry what the NFL is trying to do now. Like everyone's running too high and keeping everything in front of them. So
a deep, smart safety that's willing to come down in the run game when they do check it down.
He's a no-brainer draft choice. Like if you can get him in the 4th round, like not even like debatable.
88 will always be great. You tell Barron do a good job, man. Get his stock up. It's gonna be awesome. We're looking for him to rise, man.
He's a guy that I think scouts are going to fall in love with. Just watching his level, his effort, his intensity, his physicality. Like I said, my hunch is the organizations that really value those traits, the Ravens, the Steelers, they're going to love Barron Sorrell.
Yeah.
They're like, that's our kind of guy.
Yep. Unique regiments. Drew Makuba was a freshman All-American at Clemson, correct? But he was All-ACC honorable mention among. That's the problem is that Makuba came out of the gates strong, and then the development totally fell off. And
also, the freshman All-American teams are comprised of freshmen who started, and that's not always like a good thing.
Yeah,
because if you follow some of those guys just sort of fall off and like.
It's a good point because there's not a ton of freshmen starting.
Not a lot of freshmen starting at high-profile programs,
and also a lot of that too. You have to be a high-profile program, and your recruiting ranking also can really play into that. I've seen. I don't know about Cuba, but like other guys, it's just because you know who they are and they're a freshman, they're more likely to get onto.
Bottom line stats, and not always like it's not always the truth of a player, but in 30-something starts at Clemson, he had an interception.
Yeah.
1 year at Texas, 5. So.
Yeah. Had he not been in such a rotation, he probably would have been all SEC. Makuba was my favorite safety in the SEC this year.
I think the all SEC teams did not like Texas very much in their first year.
It was weird. Yeah. Because I thought Makuba was the best safety in the league. Over our own Taff. So, and you know I like Taff. Sorrell can have an 8 to 10 year career because of his motor mindset. Yep.
You know who I didn't get to see that much just because they weren't on our schedule, so I didn't pay as much attention to him?
Who?
That big South Carolina safety.
Yeah, I'm so
really
weak on
good, but I didn't get to watch him enough to understand how good he was or what he was exactly.
Yeah, me too. South Carolina was this like fun team I got to watch a couple times that I just mostly got to hear intriguing things about. All right, Paul, you ready to ride?
His name is Nick Amanawari.
Cool.
Yeah, great.
We're not gonna get to see him this year either. So that's why I'm just like
cool story, Paul.
Might be good for us though. That seems like
hey chat, that was a fun hour plus. Hope y'all got your money's worth.
Yeah, chat. Thanks for showing up. Today we're gonna have recruiting intel. James will have his on the Horn show this evening, and then me and Ian will be back same time tomorrow at 9:30 to talk a little bit more schematic stuff. I think we're going to talk about the RPO offense and stuff like that. So for you scheme heads, make sure you guys show up tomorrow 9:30.
Yeah, I'll make sure you challenge Ian. He makes up a lot of stuff. A lot of that stuff.
Yeah, 100%. He's never actually watched a game.
I don't even know what an RPO is. I don't even know if that's a thing.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out. Peace.